Hi, this is Quinn, and welcome back to QuinnTech. Well, in this video, I am installing the mod chip in my PlayStation 1. It is the second generation PlayStation 1, the 5000 model. This is the 5001, SCPH 5001, I think it's called. And so I'll be showing some soldering, my poor soldering skills, and I'll also be talking about my family a little bit. I love my family. Doesn't everybody? But I feel like I have a very special family, and I love them so much. But anyway, it's going to be kind of a short intro. I don't really have much to say about it, but I am doing some soldering. This is a part one of, I think it's going to be a two-parter, because it's going to end up being way too long if I did the second part. So I'm just doing the first half of my soldering job. I hope this isn't way too boring for you. I know some of you out there want something exciting and scripted and amazing, but well, that's not what you get at this channel. You just get me working on my little personal projects that I like to do. And if you want to come along with me on my journey, well, then come along on my journey. I appreciate it. And like, subscribe, hit that bell icon if you're so inclined. And thanks for coming along. And I appreciate you. All right. You take care. So, I'm going to grab a soldering iron. I've got a light, like right here, so I can see what I'm doing. This mod only needs, it doesn't need pin 2. So I'm gonna, pin 1 was loose and it came out. I don't think I had enough solder on there. But anyway, I don't need pin 2. So I'm going to desolder that one. For this particular version of the PlayStation, I don't need pin 2. So I will remove pin 2, putting pin 1 back. I have these other 6 cables connected because I just removed the 8th because I only need 7 of them. Okay, that finally feels stiff. So now I have the mod chip, the MM3 multi something 3, I forget what it stands for. Well, now that looks shiny and all these look dull. They're stuck on there though. I'm not gonna, yeah, they're fine. If I touch those, they'll pop off and I'll have to reattach them and it's gonna be this whole thing. So, that's where I'm at. And I'm moving on to the next project, which is actually wiring this up to the PlayStation, to the 7 out of 8 points that I have to attach these on the Sony PlayStation 5501. Alright, so I'll be right back with that part of the video. And then hopefully, after that, I'll be able to play my light gun games. I got Gun Barrel, which I've never heard of. And that guy kind of looks like Mr. Potato Head mixed with some crazy Mexican dude. Crazy cartoon Mexican holding a Namco gun controller. And then I have Time Crisis, which is the Japanese version, because I got 2 guns and these 2 games from Japan, and they came the whole set for, in the last video I think I said it was $68 and some change, but then I looked back, I think it was $63 and some change. So technically I got each one of these games for like $2 a piece, because I considered the guns worth $30 a piece. That was the most I was willing to pay for a single gun. And there were some US sellers, I kept giving them bids. I'm like, well, you gotta drop it down. With shipping, it's gotta be $30 or less, $29.98 or less, including shipping, and none of them went for it. And then the next thing I looked, that one gun was going for like $110 or $129 or some ridiculous amount. But I got 2. I wasn't willing to pay more than $30 per gun. I got 2 of these guns, plus these 2 games, Time Crisis and Gun Barrel. And I haven't looked inside here. I need to see what... Okay, that's the actual game. It looks practically pristine. Just got some dust, a couple of light scratches. Nothing that would ruin my experience. Let me see what this one looks like. Time Crisis. This was a little bit more popular game. Okay, that has a little bit more defined scratch. Oh, that was just a piece of hair. That was like a dog hair or a cat hair or something. Probably a cat hair coming from Japan. And so both of these look practically brand new. I mean, I could spray them down and like shine them up with my... A lot of people use Windex. I like Rain-X. I like Rain-X window cleaner. It's clear. I think it has some kind of like lubricant inside of it, because if you spray it on your car window and it rains, then all the rain will bead up and drip right off of your windshield. So that whatever that lubricant is, I like to spray that on these old classic consoles. I feel like actual Windex is a little bit harsh, because I think it's like ammonia mixed with some kind of cleaning agents. And I prefer the Rain-X. I don't know why, I've just always loved their stuff. Ever since my sister's friend, her car, she would buy the little wipes, and she would wipe her windshield. And she didn't even have wipers. Her wipers, the motor stopped working or something. She didn't even have wipers. But she could drive around in the rain with the Rain-X wipes, because when the rain would fall down on her, even in heavy rain, when the rain would fall down on her windshield, it would just beat up and just splash off, just fall off as she was driving down the road. It would just beat up and just... It keeps everything moist, especially if you put it on plastics. Plastics, if you dry them out, they'll get brittle and crack, and you don't want this on 30, 40-year-old equipment. You don't want that. 20, 30, 40-year-old equipment. You don't want that stuff getting brittle and cracking. You want to try to make it better. So that's why I prefer Rain-X glass cleaner. Anyway, so back to this. Alright, let me pause this for 1 second. I gotta do a little preparation, and then I'm going to move on to the next part where I'm actually going to solder this to my SCPH or SPCH. I think it's SCPH 5501 PlayStation. The original PlayStation. The very first model, okay, was the 1000 series. 1001 and a couple other ones in the 1000 series. Those came in the back of the console. They already had the AV cables, like the RCA jacks on the back. I have the second generation, the 5501, that the actual RCA jacks on the back of the system have already been eliminated, but it still had the parallel port here so I can plug up the Game Shark or the Action Replay. It had the serial I/O right here, so you could do, if you had two consoles and two televisions in the same household, you could connect them together and play like head-to-head 2-player. And then here it had the AV port. Like I say, the 1001 had the jacks here. You didn't even have to have a separate cable. You just needed your standard composite stereo cable. But then this version that I own, you needed the special AV cable that Sony provided. And I actually have two of those. And I only have one system. I could maybe sell one of them or give it away to somebody. I don't know anybody that would be able to use it. But for now, I'll just hold on to both of them. And then right here, on this end, is your power in. And it's just your AC power in using your standard. Later, that became a figure 8. This wasn't quite a figure 8. It was like square on one side and round on the other side. But it's just two plug. And you can use the figure 8 ones. They fit in there because the square side doesn't have to be square. It can be round and still fit in the square peg. Like that old show, Square Pegs, that lasted for like a season, maybe two, in the early 80s. I think it might have had some of the same cast of The Facts of Life or some of those people. Anyway, I remember liking that show when I was a kid. Mostly because my sister liked it, and I liked what my sister liked because she was kind of my role model in my youth. I looked up to her. She was 2 years older than me, and she showed me the way. And sometimes we fought a lot sometimes because I was kind of a rambunctious. I was a little boy in the 70s and 80s, and sometimes we feuded, but we never hated each other. We always loved each other. And then as we became adults, we've always talked to each other very honestly. We've been very open and honest, talked about even delicate subjects like sex and relationships, and just very honestly, just totally upfront. This is what's going on in my life. This is how I feel. Do you have any ideas about what I should do about this problem in my life, and da 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 da? Or even it could be, well, I'm doing this, and I know you don't approve of it, but I'm doing it. Don't give me any crap about it. This is what's going on in my life. And I didn't get any crap. It was like, okay, well, I'm worried about you. I don't want you to get hurt, but it's your life. You can do what you want. So we have that kind of. That's how my family is. I feel like I have the greatest family in the world. I've had I don't know how many friends that have met my mother say, "Oh, I wish she was my mom. I wish she was my mom because she is so understanding and kind of she doesn't. My mother never really interfered in my personal life. She never intervened, or well, sometimes she would intervene if I needed it, but she never interfered in my personal uh, life or social uh, friendships or anything like that. She always supported everything I ever did because she just wanted me to be happy. And I wish every parent could be like my mother. And I love you, Mom. I love you. And I love you, Emily, my sister, my mom, Polly, my sister, Emily. I love my other younger sister, Cassie, who came along when I was 12. It was kind of unexpected. I was in my tween years, and then all of a sudden, there's a new baby in the house. I may not, I mean, I may not have been happy about it at the time, but I love that I have a younger sister, and she's so amazing, and so is her husband, and so is my older sister's husband. Um, I just feel so lucky that I have this great family that we all support each other, and not everybody has that. I just wanted to mention that and just say how grateful I am for the friends and family I have in my life and how supportive they all are for me, especially during these trying times right after this global pandemic where nobody could, like, I mean, they could. You could hang around your friends, but then you would get shamed for it. Oh, how dare you hang around your friends? You got to stand 6 feet apart. You got to wear a mask. You got to do this. You got to do that. It was like rules, 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 rules. Most of the rules are lifting. I live in North Carolina. Today is July. It was July 1st last night. It's after midnight. It's July 2nd. All the rules have been lifted. No mask regulation, nothing. We're back. We're back to normal. I've been vaccinated for 3 months. I haven't really been wearing my mask at work because I'm not going to get sick. I may have already been sick earlier when the pandemic first started. I was never diagnosed, but I remember feeling a little ill for a couple of days. It could have been a minor cold, it could have been a minor flu, I don't know. Usually when I get sick, it's not very major. It like goes away a lot quicker than a lot of other people I know. I may have had it. I can't say. I've never been tested for antibodies. I don't know if I have antibodies, but now I've gotten the, the 2-shot Pfizer um vaccination. So I don't know if that gives you antibodies. And so if they check me now, they probably couldn't tell if I had actually contracted the disease a year ago. They could just tell that I've had the vaccine. I don't know. I don't know how that's medical science works. I know more about like electronic science. But anyway, let me get back to this install. I'm doing this MM3, and I can't remember what that stands for, but that's what it's called, the MM3 Sony PlayStation 1 mod chip. And for the 5000 series of PlayStations, you only need these 7 out of the 8 wires. So let me get prepared for the actual install of this mod chip, because I want to be able to play my light gun games that I got a few days ago, because I'm going to be able to hang out with my friend for the first time in like a year and a half that I haven't hung out with in a long time. He's a fun guy to hang out with. I mean, we're both a couple of drunks, so we get hammered and we hang out and we shoot the bull and have fun together, and that's what I like to do. So anyway, that's me, that's my life, that's what's going on with me, and I'll be right back with completing this install of the PlayStation mod chip. Alright, be right back. Okay, well, in this video I will be installing my MM3 mod chip to this SCPH, I think that's what it's called, 5501 Sony PlayStation. Basically the Model 2 of the Sony PlayStation. The Model 1 came with, in the back it had composite plugs here, and then in the reissue it just had the this AV plug that you have to have an AV cable, and then the other end has the composite cables. So, and I'm sure there were some differences on the actual motherboard, but that was the main external noticeable difference if you were just on looking at the outside of the system. So, this particular model, I have the MM3 mod chip. It has 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I think this goes around fitted onto this little PCB. It moves around, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think that's how it works. I'll have to look at it. It might be 5, 6, 7, 8. I'll have to look it up before I completely finish this. But I bought some heat shrink tubing, and for the life of me, no, it's not there either. For the life of me, I cannot find that. So, I guess I'm going to have to go old school. Which means using some electrical tape to wrap around this so it doesn't short out to this board. I wanted to have heat shrink tubing and then heat it up and have it shrink around here so it looked more professional, but apparently I can't do that because I can't find the heat shrink tubing. It's annoying. But it is what it is. I'm going to do this mod. It seems pretty straightforward. I've got this is the little schematic. There's a different schematic that I saw on a video on YouTube that came out in 2016. It was these two kind of redneck dudes out. They seem like they could have been in the city, but they were definitely down south where I am. And one of them was filming handheld with his cell phone, and the other one was actually holding the soldering iron and doing the actual modification. And they were talking back and forth. The one holding the camera kind of called off, "Oh, this is the wires you need. This is how you do it. You take," and the cheapest way to get this is it's just this chip by itself. It's not installed in this little PCB, which stands for printed circuit board. So originally you just get this chip. It's got the legs. You bend the legs out. You solder these wires to each leg. But this is mounted on a PCB, which routes each leg to a little via. And I tin these vias. I tin the wires. I tacked them down. They are all attached nice and stiff. They don't come apart. This top one I kept having problems with. I had to retack it at the beginning of this video, but now it's a-okay. You don't want anything to touch. You don't want any bridges, solder bridges, or touching wire bridges. None of that. And here, it seemed like there might have been a solder bridge, but I did a little bit of cleanup work when I pulled this out to make sure that none of these wires were touching each other. So I have everything wired up, and I got these wires from inside of a Ethernet cable. I'm pretty sure they're the correct size. And again, like I say, there's 7 legs of this chip, but for this particular model, the 5501, there's 8 legs of this chip, but for this particular model, the 5501, you only need to use 7 of the contacts. So I have wires hooked up to all 7 of the ones that are required. And next on my project list is to tack these wires in the correct order to where they need to go. I think one of them's there, one of them's like right here, another one's over here, one is like down here, one is up here, somewhere around here, maybe that one, and one is like over here, and then one sort of touches the side of this surface mount. Maybe that's a capacitor or a resistor, I don't know exactly, but one of the wires has to tack to the side of this little surface mount chip. So I got to be careful not to lift that off. It's still got to be connected to the board and have this little wire connected to the side of it. So this is probably going to be the trickiest one, because it's got to connect to the side of this little surface mounted chip. Okay, so all this stuff is tiny. I don't have any magnification. I'm just using my eyes. Luckily, I mean, my eyes aren't as good as they were when I was 20. I'll be 50 in a couple of months, but I can still see well enough that I don't have to wear glasses, and I can see this, and I can see that that just got blurry, and now it's in focus, and now it's blurry, now it's in focus, now it's blurry, now it's in focus. Anyway, I'm just making a joke there. Anyway, this area here, it's looking rather dark, like dark umber, like a yellowish color, like it got too hot. But that's factory. That's factory install. I don't want to mess with that. They probably had some flux on there and then got it hot and then didn't like clean it off properly. But I don't want to fuck with it. Last time I booted up this PlayStation without this mod chip, it worked fine. I could play all the original games I owned, including with plugging in the Game Shark here and do all my cheats. So at one point I almost like flashed over my Game Shark, because it gave me the option to like basically turn it into a PSIO, but then luckily my disc, I couldn't do the swap trick to get it to work because I didn't actually realize what I was about to do. I couldn't get the swap trick to work. Thank goodness, because had I would have canceled out the entire Game Shark and made it into like this sort of, it's like an external mod chip. You just need the parallel thing to plug in here, and it mods it without having to go inside and solder anything. But had I done that, I would have lost all my save games and all my saved sheets for every game, and it had many of the PlayStation games, and I can always add more if need be. But I've already downloaded or looked up online and had to manually enter, just like I showed on my Saturn. You have to manually enter all these codes, like 12, 16-digit codes you gotta type in with maybe 3 or 4 lines per code. And some games have like 2 codes, some have 6 codes, some have 8 codes. Each code might be 1 line of text, or it might be 2 or 3 lines of text, depending on the code. So it's a lot of work to go back and put in all these saves. So I'm glad I didn't accidentally flash this parallel port card that has my Game Shark. I still have the original with all my original cheats on it. So now it's time to install this MM3, and you can look that up if you want, what that stands for. Multi-mode 3. I don't think that's exactly what it stands for, but the MM3 mod chip for the Sony PlayStation. So that's what's coming up next. And like I say, I soldered this all together. I used these wires from inside of an Ethernet cable. They're all different colors. And I have that upside down. So that helps me trace which one is what. This is 1. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or maybe that's 5, 6, 7, 8. But I think it goes around in a circle. 1, 2, which is, you don't need to use it for this particular mod. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I was going to put some heat shrink tubing. I was going to slide it on here so it would be ready. I wasn't going to melt it down until I made sure it was working. But I can't find it. So I'm going to have to go old school and just use some electrical tape. I mean, that'll work. It'll serve the same purpose. It just won't look as professional. But anyway, yeah, let me try this. Alright, I'll be right back once I figure out what I gotta do here. Well, thank you for coming back on Quintech Retro. This is part 1 of my Sony PlayStation mod chip series, and I'm just grateful that you came along, and thanks for coming. Like, subscribe, hit that bell icon, all that YouTube-y stuff, and, well, thanks for coming. And you have a great day. Take care.